I'm Dr Jonathan Cramb. My title here isn't all that impressive. I'm an information officer. That just means it's my job to know stuff and answer public questions and things.
Sure.
Everyone in my team has a different specialty. I'm the rock and fossil person.
Right.
But yeah, I do have a PhD in paleontology.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay. So tell me about this fella.
Yeah, so this is, was for a time Australia's most complete dinosaur. We've found another one since. But Muttaburrasaurus was, I guess, the first dinosaur from Australia that we could actually put a shape to. Most of our dinosaur fossils had been very scrappy, sort of fragmentary bones and things. We knew they were dinosaurs, we didn't know a lot about them, but Muttaburrasaurus was the first reasonably complete one, and the first one we could mount up in a skeleton, like you can see on display here, and really sort of like give people an idea of what this thing looked like. It was found by a farmer in Western Queensland. His name was Doug Langdon, and its dinosaur is named after him. It's Muttaburrasaurus langdoni is the total name. So,
wow. Okay, so that's the scientific name, but it's obviously just comes from the area of Muttaburra and the bloke who found it.
Muttaburra and the guy who found it. Yeah, we try and commemorate places and people with these things because, of course, people imagine that paleontologists go out into the wilderness and dig up bones and things. That doesn't really happen very much as such. What really happens is it's usually people on the land, the farmers, the graziers and things out in Western Queensland who find things on their properties. It's often during mustering and things. They're like, what's that on the ground? That looks different. Yeah, and they contact the museum. And then we send out expeditions and things, and that's how discoveries are made.
So are these things just sitting at ground level, or, have they got a backhoe digging something and they come across bones?
Yeah, it's a bit of both, really. So sometimes people will find things while digging, farm dams and things often, that kind of thing. But often it is, you'll see fragments of bones sitting on the surface. Sometimes the rocks that originally encased those have eroded away. But also we've found that the black soils of Western Queensland actually bring bones up from the rock underneath. So you'll find fragments on the surface, and then we know to dig down through the soil and get to the rock below where the more intact bones will be found.
Wow, so is that just, just general erosion and movement of that black soil just unearths these things?
Yeah, so black soil, if you ever come across this, when it gets wet it expands and gets really sticky. When it dries it contracts and you get those big cracks forming. Yeah, it was a bit of a fluke we found this, but actually, that brings bits of bone up from below. So, even if there's no rock exposed on the surface, you can still find the fossils that are in that rock.
So were we as Australians aware of this dinosaur before this skeleton was revealed?
Well, there was a mention of it. So there's a long process between, the initial discovery in the field, what Doug Langdon found, and the mounting of a skeleton like this in a museum. This one was in a lot of tiny broken pieces, and we had to glue a lot of it back together again. And it was actually a job for the whole museum at the time. All the bits of bone were lined up on tables in the corridor, and everybody would try and sort of puzzle them back together as they were walking past. Yeah, but once we had a fair idea of the shape of the skeleton, then we could start replicating the bones to put them into a big mounted one like this. When you see a mounted skeleton in a museum, it's not usually the original bones. They're too heavy and they're too fragile to mount up like that. So we make a expanding foam copy of those bones. And then, of course, we can fill in gaps, bones that we don't have, using related dinosaurs from elsewhere. So for this one, we use a lot of bones from a dinosaur called Iguanodon, which is from Europe. Yeah, but we think is fairly closely related.
It's certainly very impressive and imposing sitting here in the Queensland Museum. Now, would this be the largest dinosaur on Australian continent?
So it's about 7 meters long, 7 to 9 meters possibly. That makes it a medium-sized dinosaur. So there are some very small dinosaurs, of course, but there are some absolutely monstrously huge ones as well. We have the biggest one we've found in Australia so far is called Australotitan. It's from near the town of Eromanga in southwest Queensland. Another one found by farmers on the land there. So you'll see a pattern of this. But that one, it's a massive sauropod, a long-necked one. And it's over 25 meters long, possibly more than 30. So it's huge. It's up there with some of the biggest dinosaurs known globally.
Wow. And do we have only land-bound dinosaurs, or are there, fossils from millions of years ago of, sea-dwelling dinosaurs?
Yeah, okay. So there's a bit of a technicality here. So dinosaurs generally live on land. Yeah, they're four-legged creatures kind of things. There are a whole lot of amazing marine reptiles from back at the time of the dinosaurs. People often call them dinosaurs. They're not. They are different groups. They're reptiles, but they're distant relatives. And we have a lot of those from Queensland too, of course. Coincidentally, Muttaburrasaurus would have lived on land, but that's not where we found its bones as such. fossils tend to form on the seafloor or in rivers and things like that. There's usually water involved. And the carcass of Muttaburrasaurus, this appears to have actually floated out to sea after it died and then sank to the sea floor. At that time, most of Central Australia was flooded by the ocean, one of a series of inland seas. We call that the Eromanga Sea. And there's a lot of marine reptiles from there. There's heaps of marine fossils in Western Queensland. You find the shells of marine mollusks and things in places that are, it's the outback now. So, very different world back then.
Do you think people don't know about Queensland's dinosaur fossil history as much as they should? I mean, I'm from the country, and it's not something that's, very prominently on my radar, the fact that we've got this amazing prehistoric Jurassic history.
Yeah, so it is really interesting like this. Most of the famous kind of prehistoric animals most people know about, they hear about, T-Rex and Triceratops and Velociraptor and things. These are ones from other parts of the world. So our Australian ones aren't as globally famous, I guess. They're not probably as well known, but we're getting there. We're getting better. So at the moment, most of the research in paleontology is being done at regional museums in outback Queensland. So the Eromanga Natural History Museum, the Australian Age of Dinosaurs Museum in Winton, Kronosaurus Corner in Richmond. These guys are doing fantastic work. They're finding more fossils than we are. And this is really the starting point for quite a boom in sort of dinosaur research in Queensland right now.
And dinosaur tourism, I assume.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. So there's a lot of people travelling to Western Queensland now to see the fossils and things. It's good to keep them in those local areas, of course. It used to be that fossils were found in Western Queensland, brought back here to Brisbane. And, there's still a little bit of that going on, but most of these fossils are kept in those regional communities. The people there are justifiably proud of these things. Yeah, and it becomes...
Why would you move them?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I mean, we want to keep them somewhere where they can be cared for, so they're not going to deteriorate and such. That's really important for a museum. But these guys have got the facilities there now. They're doing a fantastic job of preparing and displaying and protecting those fossils there.
Now, the reason we're talking, Dr. Cramb, is that the Muttaburrasaurus, or Mutt, as you seem to affectionately name him here at the museum, has been named Queensland's 10th official emblem. Tell me about the process by which Mutt has become an emblem of our state.
Yeah, so there was actually a push from Queensland Tourism to actually promote some of these regional discoveries and such. And so over the past couple of years, there's actually been a bit of a poll. We put forward a number of candidates for a state fossil emblem. A lot of states around Australia have been deciding on state fossil emblems in recent times. Yeah, and so we put it out there, a kind of a poll to say, which of these fossils would you like to vote for? And Mutt was the chosen contender in that. Yeah.
Now, it's quite a prestigious title, being a Queensland emblem. Why should Muttaburrasaurus be among that prestigious list?
Well, it is one of our most distinctive dinosaurs. There's nothing quite like it anywhere else in the world. In fact, we're actually still trying to work out exactly how it relates to other dinosaurs from overseas. It's that unique. I guess it's also quite an emblem for, there's generations of Queenslanders have come here to the Queensland Museum and seen this mounted skeleton. I remember coming to see it when I was a kid. I think it's probably my favourite dinosaur as a result. Yeah, so it's something a lot of people will remember. And of course, it's something which has been a sort of an emblem, I guess, of parts of regional Queensland since it was found. I mean, it's named after a town in Western Queensland. If you go there, you'll see a big life-size model of it standing outside the hotel there. There's another one in Hughenden. They've got a mounted skeleton like this as well there. And I guess because it was reasonably complete when it was found, it became sort of like the best known of Australian dinosaurs. You can see skeletons of this dinosaur in museums overseas now as well. So it's become like the Australia's archetypical dinosaur.
How many of these fellas have been found?
There's a couple of them. Neither of them are completely intact, so we can sort of piece together bits of them from both. But there's probably more bits out there as well. It's one of these things, you never know what's in your own backyard. Yeah. It's always worth keeping an eye out.
So it's not a matter of they're just abundant, underground, or in the soil around Queensland. There's two of them that have been found, and that's what makes them an icon of Queensland.
Yeah, that's essentially it. Yeah. The thing is, you can find fossils all across Queensland, but you won't necessarily find this one. Yeah. Very
good. Thanks very much for your time. Like you, I have been here to see Mutta only once in my life, and that was when I was travelled from Chinchilla with the Chinchilla State School Year 5 camp. So shout out to them. It's good to be back, and he's looking just as impressive as ever. So Dr Jonathan Cramb from the Queensland Museum, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.